Hey everybody, welcome to James Quest, and last night I saw Equalizer 3, which is the maybe the end of this Denzel Washington older guy does crazy action movie franchise. You know, like I would say this is better than Taken, not as good as John Wick, but it's like somewhere kind of in between there, right? It's like one of those franchises that it doesn't get talked about as much, but it's pretty decent, right? Here's the thing I'm gonna admit right now, though, and I feel like this is gonna be very important for this review because it's a very unique experience. I saw Equalizer 2 in theaters when it came out, but I've never seen the first Equalizer. So I know about the franchise, I knew it existed, but for whatever reason, I've never gotten around to watching the first one. And I've only seen that second movie when it first came out, so I never did a rewatch. So here I'm jumping into this third movie, kind of like, you know, almost fresh to the franchise, really. And it ends up becoming important at the end of this movie. We'll get to that. So the first thing is that I was kind of unprepared by how much of a slow burn this was, because, you know, we kind of start the movie with some pretty cool action. Like real violence and blood and crazy action sequences, right? And Denzel Washington really sells this stuff. You know, like his character is really quiet and very calculating. You know, literally everything's on a little stopwatch timer kind of thing. That's like his shtick, right? Like everything's on a stopwatch timer, and you got 9 seconds before this happens. You know, that kind of thing. But this movie's very much just a slow burn. You know, like he's in this Italian village and he meets these people and he gets to, you know, hang out at their little market, and it's just this really peaceful, nice place. So that way, of course, when it eventually gets all disrupted by this gang mafia violence, you know, he's got to do something about it. And that's really this character's thing, is that like he's kind of, I described him as the everyman James Bond almost. Like, you know, he's not out there stopping supervillains or world-ending threats or anything like that. He's literally just like doing his normal thing, but then when he sees something happen and he can do something to help it, right? Then he intervenes. You know, he does what he does. And if by coincidence, like this movie, if by coincidence doing something simple like doing something simple ends up being part of some bigger terrorist threat, then that was just coincidence. You know, he was just trying to help a normal person out. He's just like an everyday guy, but also, you know, he's like this crazy assassin killer guy, you know. Anyways, so basically what ends up happening is that we start this movie, he's at this vineyard, he's already taken out a whole bunch of people. We don't get to see it, we just see like the aftermath, and then this big mafia boss shows up and he's like, who are you, why are you even here? And then he ends up killing the mafia boss, and he tips off some CIA agents about like, oh, there's this vineyard right over here, you're gonna see a bunch of dead bodies that, you know, I took care of these people, and there's like drugs here, and this is probably part of something bigger, so you'll probably be interested in hearing about this. And then he hangs up and he, you know, he goes about his life. And the thing is, we don't get the reveal as to like why he was even there at the vineyard until the very end of the movie. So the whole movie, you don't know what started this plot. He's just here already and he's done this, and we don't know why he was after these people or why he was at this vineyard. It just by pure coincidence, it happened to be tied to this whole drug smuggling, supplying of this mafia kind of thing, right? Like, just by pure coincidence, he was doing something else entirely. We'll get into that. Anyways, basically he gets injured on his way out, he gets shot in the back, and then he has to stay at this small Italian village who takes care of him. And then, you know, like I said, he gets to know all the people, and he just kind of falls in love with this really small, simple place that he can, like, you know, he can retire here, he can just live here. Really nice place. And so of course, when local mafia thugs show up, he's got to take care of business. And you know, like I said, it is a slow burn. It's not going to be for everyone. Some people like the faster paced John Wick movies where it's like kind of constantly climaxing action, like one thing leads to another action scene, leads to another action scene, and then maybe you'll get like a break in the middle where they talk a little bit, and then they'll go right back to the action. This one is very much like we're gonna slowly, like, look at the scenery, look at this small Italian village, look how pretty this is, right? And it was. But when they do get to the action, it is extreme craziness, right? Like, he's like, heads are being cut off and knives are being, you know, going into faces, and all kinds of stuff's happening, right? So it does get there. It just kind of takes a while, you know, like you're like watching this slowly develop as he's, you know, he's watching these criminals do all this stuff, and he's kind of studying them, and he's waiting for his opportunity to do something about it, and he does, of course, eventually do something about it. So that's not going to be for everyone. I feel like, you know, the whole John Wickification, you know, like that might be the more speed that everyone's looking for, and this is very much more of a kind of slow and steady action movie. Yeah, basically the big reveal at the end is that he was just helping some random guy that he doesn't know. He gave him like a Lyft ride once, because in the second movie I think he's like a cabbie or a Lyft driver or something like that. But basically he just gave some random person a Lyft ride, and apparently that person's pension had been taken. His retirement pension had been stolen on the internet, and so because he just wants to help this random guy out, like I said, he's just kind of a hero for the everyman, just the everyday guy. He's just like the champion of those people, right? He's like, okay, I'm gonna track down who stole your money. I'm gonna go to this Italian vineyard, and I'm gonna kill all these people and get your money back. And so he's had this backpack with this guy's retirement pension for like the entire movie, and it's only at the end that it's revealed what's in the backpack, and it's like, oh, it was just this guy's money. This random guy he doesn't know. It was just his money. So that's like a kind of a neat thing about this character, is that, like, again, there's not like some supervillain or government organization that he's trying to like help or stop or whatever. It's like he was just trying to help some normal guy, but, you know, to the most extreme measures possible, like literally, you know, gonna go kill a bunch of mafia members just to get this guy's retirement pension back. That's crazy. So, you know, I thought that was pretty fun. You don't really see stuff like that happen, you know. It's always something much bigger of a threat, and by pure coincidence the rest of this movie happens. And that's kind of the funny thing about it, is like the rest of this movie only happened by happenstance. It wasn't like intentional. Like he got injured and he had to stay in this town, and then he saw more threats, and so he just stuck around to take care of it. Like, that's what it is. I will say something else, is that because I didn't watch that first movie, there's something of a big reveal at the very end that I could tell was supposed to be a big reveal, but to me, I didn't know what it was, and so I had to look it up later. And it turns out that the government agent that he was in contact with this whole movie is the daughter of some characters from the first movie, which again I never saw. So you know, there's that. This is very much the closing of a trilogy, and I kind of feel bad that I didn't watch that first movie now, because I was missing some context here. But yeah, in any case, this is a pretty serviceable action movie. You know, it has a lot of great moments in it, but it is more of a slow burn. But when the violence happens, it really, really goes there. You know, it does, you know, when the violence is happening, it does go full John Wick, right? It's just not at the same pacing as those movies. So, yeah, in any case, I had fun with this one. Denzel Washington, of course, is playing this really likable agent who has his own, like, quirks, you know, his own, like, he's got like OCD or like these little habits that he has to repeat things over and over again, you know. So he's very much of a quiet guy who's not the most social person in the world, but he's very competent, you know. He's extremely competent at what he does, so it just makes him real likable, you know. Yeah, there you go. That's Equalizer 3. I really enjoyed this one. I definitely want to go recheck out those other Equalizer movies and be like, okay, this was a good franchise. It just kind of feels like not a lot of people talk about it, and I do think it's because over the years it kind of got overshadowed by other similar franchises like your John Wicks. But yeah, you know what? This is a pretty serviceable one, and if this is the last one, then I think you have a pretty solid, you know, series of movies, you know, after I see the first one, that is. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.